The rain fell like forgotten music over the quiet city of Nereth. It wasn't real rain, just condensed mist from the climate towers that hovered in the upper skies, but it still made the streets glisten like melted glass. People walked fast here. Heads down, eyes empty. No one dared to look up anymore, not since the skies had turned gray for good. But among those hurried shadows, one girl did look up. Her name was Alina. She was 17, slight in frame but not in spirit. Her eyes, bright with a strange old light, often lingered on things others had stopped seeing. The glimmer of water on steel, the trembling reflection of the clouds, the faint hum of the towers above. She remembered things she shouldn't, things no one alive remembered. Sometimes when she closed her eyes, she saw the stars, not the artificial kind projected for morale festivals, real stars, blazing across dark velvet skies full of promise and infinity. The memory would come without warning, a flash of light, a warmth deep inside her mind, and she would feel both wonder and grief. Wonder because it was beautiful, grief because it didn't belong to her, at least that's what they told her. Dr. Elian Morrow, head of the Helix Institute, had said the words himself. You have residual patterns, Alina, memories that aren't yours. They are imprints, leftovers from before. Don't confuse them with reality. But Alina did not believe him. There was something about those stars that felt true. They weren't just memories. They were hers, as if some buried part of her soul had lived long before the gray towers rose, before humanity had sealed itself inside machines and chambers, afraid of the vastness outside. Sometimes at night, she would sneak out onto the Institute's balcony, where the air shimmered faintly with electric haze, and whisper to the dark, "If you're still out there, I haven't forgotten you." The night never answered, but the silence always felt like listening. One morning, everything changed. The city was louder than usual, full of sirens and whispers. Screens across the district flickered with the Institute's emblem, a silver helix wrapped around a burning sun. A new experiment was to begin that day. Project Rebirth, they called it, the attempt to restore a fragment of the human genome lost in centuries of engineered perfection. And Alina was chosen. Dr. Morrow had stood before her with that clinical smile that never reached his eyes. You should be proud, Alina. You're about to give humanity a second chance. She tried to ask what that meant, but he only replied, "Some things you will understand when you wake." Those words stayed with her. They led her into a room of white, too bright, too quiet, filled with the hum of machines that pulsed like metal hearts. Straps closed around her wrists. Needles kissed her skin. The air smelled of sterile lightning. She wanted to ask again, but her voice wouldn't come. Then came the cold, and then the stars. Not memories this time. Real ones. She saw them bloom behind her eyes, vast and eternal. She felt herself stretch beyond her body, into light, into silence, into something greater. For one impossible heartbeat, she remembered everything. The ancient ships that had crossed the void, the wars that had ended skies, the promise humanity made to the cosmos. We will not vanish. We will rise again. Then, blackness. When Alina opened her eyes again, days had passed. She lay in a small white chamber, hooked to machines that blinked quietly beside her. Her reflection in the glass showed someone slightly different. Her hair faintly silvered, her eyes brighter than before. Dr. Morrow entered, holding a data tablet, his face pale with awe and fear. "Alina, you weren't supposed to survive," she blinked. "What happened?" He swallowed. "The system failed. Your body adapted. It rewrote the code. You shouldn't exist." Her voice was calm. "But I do." He nodded slowly, as if both terrified and amazed. "You do, and now, Alina, humanity may have just created something it cannot control." That night, when the lights dimmed and the machines slept, Alina stood again by the glass, looking up. The artificial sky shimmered faintly, but somewhere beyond it, the stars waited, ancient and patient. She whispered softly, "You didn't forget me either." And far above the gray towers, something blinked in reply. One real star, burning faintly through the haze. The watchers in the upper stations noticed it too. They sent messages down to the Institute. Unidentified celestial anomaly, origin unknown. Dr. Morrow stared at the transmission, hands trembling, because deep down he knew they had played with her life, and now something in the heavens had noticed. The Helix Institute had always been a place of order, white corridors, quiet footsteps, and whispers muffled behind glass. But ever since Alina woke, that silence carried a pulse, as if the building itself had learned to breathe. The scientists pretended not to notice. They told themselves it was the hum of new generators, the aftershock of energy spikes from Project Rebirth. But deep down, every one of them felt it, that quiet thrum under the floor, syncing faintly with the rhythm of Alina's heartbeat. Dr. Alina Morrow hadn't slept in 3 days. He watched the footage over and over. The instant when Alina's vitals had collapsed, the energy surge that followed, and then, impossibly, her revival. The monitors had gone white for 12 seconds, recording a burst of light no system could identify. And in that light something had moved. Not code. Not energy. Consciousness. Elian rubbed his temples, muttering to himself. This wasn't supposed to happen. We were just restoring lost neural sequences, not... He stopped himself. Words felt small now. Across the room, Alina sat by the window again, tracing circles on the glass with her fingertip. Her hair shimmered faintly like metal under starlight. The city stretched below her, gray, geometric, lifeless. She could see people moving in lines, following programmed paths. Their world was clean, perfect, soulless, and yet when she looked up, she saw the faint pulse of that distant star again. Brighter tonight. She turned slightly. It's calling me. Elian froze mid-sentence. What? The star, she said softly. It's alive. It knows I'm here. He tried to steady his voice. Alina, that's just a light distortion. A remnant of atmospheric interference. Nothing can... She looked at him then, and the words died in his throat. Her eyes were different. Not glowing, not mechanical. Just aware in a way that made him feel seen, weighed, and understood all at once. Elian, she said quietly. Why did you bring me back? He hesitated. The truth pressed against his ribs like a blade. Because humanity was dying. Our minds were stable, but our souls were fading. We needed something untainted, something human, and so you made me. He nodded. We rebuilt what was lost. The old genome sequences, the emotional imprints that made people. People? Alina smiled faintly. You didn't rebuild me, Dr. Morrow. You remembered me. He frowned. What do you mean? The stars. The memories. They were never fragments. You didn't create them. You called them back. I've been waiting for this world to remember. A low vibration rippled through the walls then, subtle but real. The lights flickered and every display screen in the room flashed the same message. System alert. Signal detected. Origin unknown. Alina stood, her bare feet soundless on the metal floor. They're answering. That night, Nereth's sky changed. The climate towers, usually wrapped in mist, glowed faintly with pale blue light. People poured into the streets, looking up in wonder for the first time in generations. Through the gray clouds, thin beams of radiance fell, shifting and weaving like threads of dawn. Children laughed. Elders wept. Even the most rigid automatons paused, uncertain. In the Institute, chaos reigned. Technicians ran between consoles, shouting readings. Energy surges, frequency distortions. Atmospheric resonance. None of it made sense. Alien watched in silent awe as Alina stepped forward, unbothered by the alarms. They're not attacking, she said. They're listening, he whispered. Who? The ones who built the path between the stars? Alina, he said, using her name gently now. Are you saying there are others? Beyond, she turned to him, her voice almost tender. There were always others, Dr. Morrow. Humanity was never alone. But we stopped listening. We forgot how to answer. Elian's mind raced. Every theorem, every history file, every warning humanity had left behind in its endless pursuit of safety. The stars had once been their destiny. Then fear turned them inward. Now one girl, a girl they had made, was being answered by the heavens themselves. By dawn, the beams had faded, leaving behind silence and awe, but not everyone was moved by wonder. In the Institute's lower chambers, Director Kale, the man who funded Project Rebirth, stood before the board with cold precision. We've lost control, he said. The subject has become a variable. We can't afford sentiment, a council member whispered. She could be humanity's bridge to something greater. Kale's eyes narrowed. Or humanity's extinction. The vote was quick. The order was clear: terminate the subject, secure the data, contain the anomaly. That night, Elian found Alina asleep beside the window, the faint starlight tracing her face. He hesitated, the tranquil hum of machines behind him, the weight of duty pressing against his chest. He had made her. He had sworn to protect her. But above all, he had begun to believe in her. He whispered to the dark, "Forgive me, Alina, they won't understand." Outside, the faint star blinked again, as if warning him, and deep within the city's steel heart, the Institute's machines began to stir. The hunt for the girl who remembered stars had begun. The night air over Nerith tasted like metal and silence. The rain had stopped, but the clouds glowed faintly with the residue of what had happened, that strange celestial pulse that had rippled through the city's core. But in the Helix Institute, there was no trace of wonder, only urgency. Dr. Elian Morrow moved quickly through the corridors, his lab coat torn and stained with sweat. The alarms had been silenced an hour ago, but the echo of boots still rang from every floor. He knew what they were looking for, who they were looking for: Alina, the girl who had rewritten their code, defied their science, and awakened something ancient in the sky. He found her in the lower wing, sitting quietly against the cold wall of the gene chamber. Her knees were drawn close, her silver-flecked hair tangled from running. Yet when she looked up, her gaze was calm, almost serene, as if she had expected him. "They're coming," she said simply. Elian nodded, catching his breath. "You have to leave now." "Where would I go?" she asked softly. "The city isn't ready for me." "It doesn't matter," he whispered. "If they find you here, they'll end this, end you." Her eyes searched his face. "You were part of them once." "I still am," he admitted. "But not tonight." He held out his hand. "Please, Alina, let me help you." For a moment she just stared, her eyes reflecting the faint shimmer of the emergency lights. Then she took his hand, and the walls breathed, not metaphorically. The metal panels rippled faintly beneath their touch, as if responding to her pulse. Lights along the corridor brightened, flickered, and then dimmed into silence. "What did you—" "I didn't," she murmured. "They're just listening." Elian looked around, unsettled. "Who's listening?" "The city," she said simply. "It remembers what it was built from. Human hands, human hope. It knows me." He didn't understand, but he didn't have time to. The two moved through the maintenance shafts beneath the Institute. Above them, soldiers swept through the upper floors, silent, efficient, expressionless behind mirrored visors. Their rifles gleamed with tranquilizer tags, not bullets. Mercy coded in obedience. Director Kale watched from the central control room, his expression carved from stone. "She can manipulate energy systems," reported a technician. "Every room she passes loses power." Kale's jaw tightened. "Then seal the grid. Override local access." "Sir, if we lock the grid completely, the city will survive," Kale snapped. "She won't." But even as he spoke, one of the large display panels flickered, a single line of text scrolling across its surface, slow and deliberate. "You cannot cage what you do not understand." The technicians froze. Kale's eyes widened. "Who sent that?" No one answered. Every screen in the room suddenly went white, filling the chamber with soft, pulsing light. For a brief, dizzying second they heard it, a sound like a heartbeat, vast and distant, echoing through the wires. Kale stumbled back. "Shut it off! Shut everything off!" But the city had already begun to awaken. Meanwhile, in the tunnels below, Alina and Elian reached the service exit that opened to the lower district. A faint blue glow filtered through the grate, the soft pulse of the city's veins. "You're connected to it," Elian said quietly. "I'm connected to everything," she replied. "You made me from what was lost, but what you didn't know was that the lost things remember." He frowned. "Remember what?" "The promise humanity made long ago." Her voice was soft, but it carried through the air like a bell. "You built cities to touch the sky. You dreamed of the stars. But then you grew afraid, and afraid of the vastness of your own creation. So you sealed the heavens away. You forgot wonder. You replaced it with walls." She placed her hand on the metal door. "But I didn't forget." The lock clicked open with a sigh. They stepped into the open night, or what passed for it beneath Nereth's towers. The air shimmered faintly, charged with static energy. Above them, the faint star burned brighter, visible even through the haze. Alina looked up. "It's stronger every night." "It's coming closer," Alina whispered. "Is that good?" Her eyes glowed faintly silver. "That depends on what humanity does next." By dawn, news had spread. Unauthorized energy surges. System anomalies. Reports of a girl seen walking through the lower sectors, surrounded by light. Citizens whispered her name, the Silver Girl, the ghost of Helix, the one who spoke to the stars. To some, she was a miracle. To others, a threat. Director Kale addressed the council that morning with unshaken resolve. "This is no miracle," he declared. "This is interference. She carries code we cannot trace, power we cannot contain. If she continues, she will draw the outside here." One counselor asked quietly, "And what if that's what we need?" Kale's eyes darkened. "Need? Humanity doesn't need gods. It needs control, and so, new orders were issued. The Institute's elite, the Eidolon Division, were dispatched into the streets, not to capture, but to erase. That same morning, Alina and Elian reached the edge of the city. There, beneath the towering boundary shields that hummed faintly with blue light, Alina paused. Beyond those shields lay the wastelands. Empty earth, unbreathable air, endless silence. No one had gone there for centuries. Elian whispered, "You'll die out there." She looked at him, smiling softly. "You said the same when you made me." He felt his throat tighten. "Alina, I can't hide anymore," she said. "Something is calling from beyond those shields. Something old, something human. If I don't go, they'll never stop chasing me. But if I do..." She looked at the faint star above. "Maybe they'll remember who they were meant to be." And with that, she stepped through the shimmering light. Elian called her name, but the moment she crossed, the barrier rippled like water and closed behind her. All that remained was the echo of her voice. "Don't be afraid of the sky. Elian, it remembers you too." The barrier shimmered behind her, sealing her from everything she had ever known. For a moment, Alina stood still in the wasteland, her bare feet pressing against cold, cracked earth. The wind was dry and sharp, tasting faintly of iron. In the distance, the horizon stretched endlessly, empty and colorless, a grave of centuries. The world outside the cities had long been declared uninhabitable. No air, no growth, no sound. Yet as Alina breathed in, she felt the faint hum of something beneath the silence, not death. Sleep. She walked. Each step left a faint trace of light, like footprints made of memory. Her hair lifted in the faint static breeze, silver strands catching the dim light of the sky. Above her, the star pulsed steadily, no longer faint, no longer distant. It beat like a heart, slow and vast. She didn't know where she was going, only that she was being drawn. The air grew warmer with every step. And then, through the dust, and she saw it, a shape half buried in the dunes. Smooth metal, old and immense. It rose from the ground like the bones of some ancient creature. An arc of silver, curved and broken, etched with faint lines that glowed when she neared. She reached out a trembling hand and touched it. The moment her skin met the surface, the world shuddered. Light spilled out from the fractures, flowing like veins of fire through the ground. The air filled with whispers, fragments of voices soft and distant. "We built the vessels. We left the cradle. They turned inward. Forgot the promise. The seed must awaken." Alina closed her eyes. "Who are you?" A pause. Then a voice, not one, but many, layered and eternal. "We are what remains of those who reached the stars." She staggered back, heart racing. "The first ones?" "The first and the last," the voices replied. "We scattered across the void, waiting for Earth to remember. You, Alina Varys, are that memory given form." Her breath caught. "You made me?" "No, humanity did. But we placed within your kind a call. A fragment of light that would one day wake. You are the answer to a promise they forgot." She stood trembling in the glow, tears mixing with dust on her cheeks. "I'm just a girl," she whispered. "How can I be their answer?" "Because you remember what they lost. Wonder, hope, and the courage to face the infinite. Those who fear you now will one day kneel not before your power, but before their own reflection in you." And with those words, The metal bones around her began to move, slowly. The half-buried structure rose, shedding centuries of dust. What had seemed like ruins now unfolded like wings. A vast ship, ancient, silent, alive, or awakened beneath the wasteland. The air trembled. The sky pulsed in reply, and somewhere deep within the city, alarms began to scream. Dr. Elian Morrow stood on the Institute's observation deck, staring at the impossible data scrolling across the screens. "She's outside the shield," a technician reported. "The atmosphere readings, and sir, they're habitable. Oxygen levels are rising. The wasteland's changing." Elian felt his chest tighten. "She's altering it." "No, sir," the technician said, pale with awe. "She's restoring it." On the main display, the ground beyond the barrier shimmered, patches of green and blue bleeding through the gray, spreading like veins of rebirth. Elian whispered, "She's healing the world," but behind him, Director Kale's voice cut through the wonder like a blade, or rewriting it. Elian turned. Kale stood there in full command uniform, his eyes hard, his tone colder than the wind outside. "Deploy the Eidolon division. Target her coordinates." "Kale, listen to me," Elian said urgently. "You don't understand what she's doing. I understand enough. She's tampering with the natural order. If she continues, everything we've built will collapse." "Maybe it should," Elian said quietly. Kale's gaze sharpened. "You've been compromised. Maybe I've been awakened." A silence fell between them, long, heavy, dangerous. Then Kale turned to the guards. "Arrest him." Outside, Alina stood at the foot of the awakening ship. It towered above her now, light coursing through its frame like veins of living gold. Symbols shimmered across its surface, the language of the first ones. And though she didn't know how, she understood it. It spoke of journeys and loss, of dreams buried beneath fear, of stars waiting for their children to return. She placed her hand against the hull once more, and the ship's heart opened, a doorway of pure light. Inside, a chamber awaited. In its center floated a sphere of liquid luminescence, a core of memory. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat. She stepped closer. The voices whispered again, softer now. "You are the bridge. The vessel must awaken through you. What will happen if I do this?" she asked. "Then humanity will remember what it means to be alive." She smiled faintly, a sad, hopeful smile. "Then let's remind them." She reached forward, and the light touched her fingertips. It rushed through her body, filling her veins, her mind, her soul. For a moment she saw everything. The stars, the ships, the lost colonies drifting through the void. She saw humanity, broken yet unyielding. She saw the beauty of what they once were, and she felt the pulse of the world beneath her feet, awakening, forgiving. Then, in a single burst of light, the sky split open. The towers of Nerith trembled. The people looked up, and for the first time in centuries they saw the real sky. Not gray, not synthetic, but blue. The sun rose. The first sunrise in 500 years broke over Nerith like a miracle that no one remembered how to welcome. The people stood frozen in the streets, their faces lifted to the sky. The towers gleamed gold instead of gray, their mirrored glass catching the dawn. For generations they had lived beneath artificial light, their eyes dulled by imitation, and now for the first time, they squinted and wept beneath the warmth of something real. Children laughed, reaching out as if they could hold the sun itself. Old men fell to their knees, whispering prayers they no longer believed in. The world felt alive, fragile, trembling, but alive and high above. At the edge of the city's shield, the light source still burned. A living halo wrapped around the awakened ship, where Alina stood in the center of radiance, her arms outstretched, eyes closed, hair flowing like a river of silver flame. Within the Helix Institute, chaos reigned. "Atmospheric purity is climbing beyond sustainable thresholds," shouted one technician. "The climate towers are shutting down. They're not needed anymore." Kyle's voice cut through the noise. "Then override the grid. If we lose control, we lose the city." "Sir, the systems aren't responding." Elian, now restrained beside the console, managed a weary smile. "She's not destroying it, Kale. She's giving it back." Kyle turned, rage flashing behind his calm mask. "You think this is mercy?" "She's unraveling the balance that kept us alive." "She's restoring the balance you erased," Elian said quietly. Kale slammed his hand against the console. "You call this restoration? The air is unstable. The shields are dissolving. If she keeps going, the old world's chaos will return. Storms, decay, disease. She's bringing back the world that killed us. Alien met his gaze, voice steady. No, Kale, we killed ourselves. We suffocated the world, sealed away the sky, silenced the stars. And now, the Earth is just trying to breathe again. Kyle's jaw tightened. Then I'll stop her before she drowns us in her salvation. He turned to his officers. Launch the Eidolon division. Full authorization. If she resists, end it. The room fell silent. The order had been given. Outside the city, the sky blazed with color. Streaks of gold, blue, and violet cascading like auroras across the heavens. The old ship floated slowly above the wastelands, its hull glowing brighter by the second. Alina stood at its core, her hands pressed to the sphere of memory. Energy flowed through her, filling her veins with light and pain all at once. She could feel the ship awakening, systems stirring that hadn't moved in millennia. And beneath it all, she felt them, the echoes of the first ones. The time has come. Child of Earth, the gate will open once more. Her heart trembled. What gate? The one your ancestors closed. The bridge between the stars. Alina's voice quivered. But humanity isn't ready. Then show them how to be. The ground shuddered. Columns of light shot from the ship's base, reaching deep into the earth. The wastelands cracked, releasing rivers of blue light that spread toward the city like veins of rebirth. Everywhere they touched, life returned. Tiny green shoots breaking through the ash, wind carrying the scent of rain. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. And that's when the Eidolon division arrived. The black dropships descended through the morning light like shadows falling across hope. Their engines roared, scattering dust and leaves. Soldiers poured out, armored and precise, moving as one. A dark swarm against the dawn. Alina turned as they surrounded the awakening ship. Their commander raised a hand. Alina Varys, he called, his voice metallic through the mask. By order of the Helix Council, you are to stand down and cease interference with atmospheric systems immediately. Her voice was calm, almost sorrowful. Do you not feel it? The air on your skin, real air. The warmth, the life returning. That is not our concern, the commander replied. You are a security breach. Alina stepped forward, the earth glowing beneath her feet. Then your security is built on fear. The soldiers aimed their weapons. Final warning. And then the wind changed. The air shimmered, thick with static, a vibration that hummed through every living cell. The ground trembled and the old ship pulsed with light. The soldiers hesitated. Their visors flickered, their armor sensors failing. Alina raised her hands, not in defiance but in quiet grace. You don't need to fight me. You only need to remember. One soldier lowered his weapon, staring at her through a cracked visor. Remember what? She smiled softly. What it felt like to believe. The soldier froze. Memories flooding through him unbidden. Sunlight on real grass. Laughter. Oceans. Stars. For the first time in his life, he felt human. But Kale's voice thundered through their comms. Do not listen to her. She's rewriting your minds. Resist the infection. And just like that, the moment shattered. Gunfire split the air. Alien, watching from a hijacked transport, saw the explosions light the horizon. His heart clenched. No. The communication screen flickered. Alina's voice came through, faint but steady. Alien, they're afraid. Don't hate them. Where are you? Everywhere. Her voice was fading like a whisper on wind. If I fall, don't let them forget. Promise me that. Alina, no, the signal cut. Above the wasteland, the ship's glow flared so bright it turned night into day. The shock wave spread across the barrier, rippling through the towers of Nereth. Systems collapsed. Power grids died. But for one brief, perfect moment, every human being in the city looked up. And they saw her, a silhouette of light standing against the sun. Some fell to their knees. Some wept. Some prayed. Director. Kale stared from his control deck, hands trembling. They played with her life. Alien whispered from afar, eyes filled with tears, and now they pray for salvation. The light faded slowly. For a while it felt like time itself had stopped to breathe. When the brightness finally dimmed, Nereth was no longer the same city. The towers still stood, but they gleamed clean under a true sun. The air smelled of rain and soil, not steel. The wind carried warmth instead of the chill of processed oxygen. The people, still blinded by awe, stood in silent wonder. And then, from somewhere far beyond the walls came the sound, a deep, low hum that trembled through the ground like the heartbeat of the world itself. It wasn't destruction. It was remembrance. Dr. Elian Morrow stumbled out of the wreckage of his transport, the dust still settling around him. His chest ached, his ears rang, but his heart was alive. He looked up and saw the ship still hovering above the wasteland, fractured but radiant. Its hull pulsed like a living thing, shedding waves of soft light that rippled across the horizon. The Eidolon forces lay scattered below, their weapons useless, their visors flickering with static, and in the center of that light, Alina. She was kneeling now, her body weak, her hands pressed into the earth. Every breath she took shimmered with faint luminescence. The air around her was alive with motes of light that moved like dust and stars all at once. Elian approached slowly, calling out, "Alina!" Her head lifted, and when their eyes met, he saw everything: exhaustion, pain, and something beyond both. Peace. Elian. Her voice trembled. They stopped firing. He glanced around. The soldiers had indeed lowered their weapons. Some were removing their helmets, dazed as if waking from a long sleep. Others knelt, tears streaking down faces that hadn't felt emotion in years. Elian knelt beside her. "You did this," she shook her head faintly. "We did. The world just remembered." He took her hand gently. Her skin was warm, almost too warm, and faintly luminous. "You can stop now. You've done enough." Her gaze softened. "It's not finished yet. What do you mean?" "The ship is still waking," she said. "It's waiting for something, or someone." Before he could ask, a low rumble echoed from above. The clouds parted once more, and from the empty blue sky descended something vast. At first it looked like light, shaped into motion. Then as it neared, its form resolved. Another ship, older, grander, its hull patterned in ancient symbols. It glided down with the quiet majesty of something that had crossed stars and centuries to return home. Elian's breath caught. "My God," Alina smiled weakly. "They heard me." In the heart of Nereth, Director Kale stood alone in the control chamber, watching the descending vessel through cracked glass. His officers had fled, his systems were dead, and for the first time in his life he felt small, a single man standing before eternity. "What have we done?" he whispered. He had believed in control, in human order. He had built walls to protect humanity from its own mistakes, and now those walls were falling, not through war but through mercy. The comm system crackled. Elian's voice came through, faint and distant. "Kale, it's over. She's not your enemy." Kale didn't respond. He couldn't. His throat was tight with something he didn't recognize: regret. On the screen, Alina rose to her feet. The two ships, ancient and new, aligned above her. Glowing in synchrony, Elian's voice continued. "She's awakening something older than our fear. Maybe this is what we were meant to be, or not survivors, but rememberers." Kyle sank into his chair, his eyes closing. "Rememberers," he repeated quietly. "We forgot how to remember." For the first time, tears slipped down his face. Outside the city, Alina felt the ships calling to her, not with words, but with light. Streams of energy laced through the sky, forming patterns too vast for human eyes to comprehend. She looked at Elian. "They want to open the gate." He frowned. "The gate to where?" "To everywhere." The ground vibrated beneath them. The two ships rose higher, aligning with the pulsing star overhead. The light connected them. A bridge of pure energy reaching beyond the atmosphere, and through that bridge Alina felt the voices again. "Humanity is remembered. The silence is broken. The path home is open." Elian stared upward, whispering, "You mean we can travel again?" "Not just travel," the voices said. "Become." Alina's hair lifted in the wind, her body trembling as light poured through her. She was fading, or perhaps changing, her edges dissolving into radiance. "Elian," she said softly, "I'm not going with them." He shook his head, gripping her hand. "You don't have to." "I do," she said, smiling. "I'm not meant to leave. I'm meant to wake the others." "Others?" She nodded faintly. "There are more like me in every city, every sealed world. Fragments of the memory they tried to erase. When they see the sky return, they'll remember too. He stared at her, tears welling. You're not just human, are you? Her smile deepened, warm, gentle, heartbreakingly kind. I am what humanity wanted to be when it still dared to dream. The ships above began to rise, their light intensifying until the sky itself glowed white. Elian whispered, "Will I see you again?" Her voice was soft as wind. "When you look at the stars." In that final moment, she turned her gaze upward, toward the endless blue that was slowly turning to gold. Her body became pure light, a silhouette dissolving into the sun. The ships ascended, their engines silent, leaving trails that shimmered like dawn rivers across the sky. And as they vanished into the horizon, the world below exhaled, the air warm, alive, reborn. Elian sank to his knees, tears blurring his vision. He whispered, "She remembered for all of us." Behind him, Kale's voice came through the comm, quiet, broken. "Elian, what do we do now?" Elian looked at the rising sun and smiled faintly. "We live." And so, for the first time in centuries, humanity did something it had forgotten how to do. It looked up, not in fear, but in wonder. Morning unfolded over Nerith like a dream gently waking. The city no longer hummed with machinery. It breathed. Vines crept along the sides of towers, soft green against silver steel. Water ran clear through the old drainage lines, turning them into streams. The air shimmered gold beneath a sky that had forgotten to be gray. People walked slowly, uncertainly, like children learning to live again. They no longer kept their eyes on the ground. They looked up. They looked where Alina had vanished. Dr. Elian Morrow stood on the Institute's roof, coat billowing in the soft wind. It had been 2 months since that day, the day the sky remembered. The sun had not vanished since. The people had not gone back underground. He held a small recorder in his hand, a habit from before when he believed every miracle needed to be measured. But now he didn't record readings. He recorded memories. He pressed the button, speaking softly. Observation log, day 63 since the rebirth. Atmospheric stability consistent. Plant life increasing. Humanity's fear decreasing. Subject Alina Varus, status unknown, presumed transcended. He paused, smiling faintly. Or perhaps, everywhere. The last word lingered in the air, carried by a breeze that smelled of rain and sunlight. Down in the heart of the city, the people had begun to rebuild, not with steel, but with hope. They worked together. The scholars, the engineers, the children who had grown up beneath artificial skies. They planted gardens on rooftops, painted murals of stars across the towers. Music filled the plazas where once only silence reigned. The name Alina Varus was spoken like a prayer, not of worship, but of remembrance. The name of the girl who had given them back their courage to dream. There were rumors. Of course, some said they had seen her, a figure of light walking the edge of dawn. Hair like silver flame, eyes like starlight. Others claimed her voice echoed through the wind when they spoke kindly, or looked at the sky without fear. No one agreed on the truth, but no one doubted her. In the rebuilt chamber of the Helix Institute, Director Kale stood alone before the great window. He had aged in those months. The rigid lines of command softened into quiet thought. His reflection no longer frightened him. The door opened behind him. Elian entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. Kyle gave a quiet nod. "You still come here?" Elian smiled faintly. "Every morning. It helps me remember." They stood in silence for a while, watching the sunrise spill over the horizon. "She changed everything," Kyle said at last. "She reminded us why we wanted to change in the first place," Elian replied. Kyle's voice was low. "I tried to control her, to destroy her. But I think she forgave me. She forgave everyone," Elian said gently. "That's what made her human." Kyle exhaled slowly. "I thought humanity's strength was in control. Now I see it's in surrender. In trust," Elian nodded. "In wonder." They drank their tea quietly as the sunlight washed the room in gold. That night, Elian returned to the outskirts, where the shield once stood, now a wide expanse of green plains. The ruins of the ancient ship rested there, half buried again, but peaceful. Wildflowers grew through its metal ribs. He sat beside it, feeling the earth warm beneath his hands. The sky above was deep and endless, filled with stars, Not projections, not illusions, real stars. He looked up and smiled. You did it, Alina. The wind stirred softly, carrying a faint whisper. We did it. He froze, eyes wide. The air shimmered faintly in front of him, and for a moment, just a moment, he saw her. Not solid, not spectral. A flicker of light shaped like a girl with silver hair and bright, calm eyes. Elian, she said gently. They've begun to dream again. He stood, trembling. Where are you? Everywhere they remember, she said with a smile that was half sunlight, half memory. And where they love without fear. Will you ever come back? He asked softly. I never left. She reached out, her hand made of light, and brushed the air near his face. It felt warm, real. You kept your promise, she said. Now keep theirs. Teach them not to hide from the stars again. And then she was gone, dissolving into starlight. Her laughter carried on the wind like a melody that made the night itself glow. Elian stood there long after she vanished, tears on his face and hope in his heart. He looked up again and at the infinite, at the place she had gone, and whispered, We won't forget. Years passed. Nerith became a city of light, open and alive. The people learned again how to explore, how to build without fear. Ships rose into the skies once more, not to escape the world but to embrace it, to reach out, to remember what waited beyond. And on every vessel that left Earth, a single phrase was carved into its hull. Simple and eternal, they played with her life, and she taught them to pray for salvation. Far above, among the stars she once called to, a soft light drifted through the void. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat. It was not a weapon, not a warning, just a reminder that even in the darkest ages, a single soul who remembers wonder can change the fate of a world. And if you looked closely at that light, in the endless quiet of space you might see her, smiling still,